and I'd like to tell you how I almost said goodbye to this world when I was just 12 years old. I lived all my life in an area with a lot of ponds and swamps. During the spring and summer, my friends and I would spend a few hours in the water every day after school. It was so much fun. We had a lot of adventures together. I never thought that my life would be completely changed by a nasty crocodile deciding I looked an awful lot like his lunch. Just like any other summer day, my best friends and I rushed out of school and toward the nearby lake. It was super hot outside, and it was the ideal day for a good swim. We couldn't wait for the summer vacation to arrive. Then we'd be able to spend all of our days by the shore. It was so much fun, just like all the previous years, but maybe even better. After all, our parents thought we were old enough to go there for hours and hours unsupervised. That was awesome, and we knew it would be the best summer ever. Or so we thought, because something terrible happened 2 whole weeks before our vacation break started. Something that was going to change my life entirely and keep me away from the lake for good. I don't think I've ever approached any big body of water since then. After you hear my story, I know that you would have done the same thing. Even pools kind of freak me out, even if I'm aware that there are no animals down there. That day seemed like the preview of what would be a great summer break. We were almost giddy, so we rushed all the way to the lake. We almost got run over by old Mr. Hunter in West Street. He was really upset, but we didn't stop for long. My friends and I couldn't wait to get in the water. When we finally reached the shore, we took our shorts off and jumped in the water. We were just kids, so you can imagine how noisy and silly we were being. We didn't even stop to think that this might annoy some local animals. After all, nothing had happened to us before, and all the children from our hometown usually jumped in the lake from time to time. I wish that there was some adult in the area to let us know that we should be a bit quieter. Not only because I really don't like the idea of upsetting animals and disrupting their habits, but also so that I could have potentially escaped the worst experience of my life. The truth of the matter is, ever since that day, I've been filled with what-ifs. What if I decided to go play soccer instead of jumping in the lake? What if I hadn't swum so deep? What if my friends hadn't helped me in time? What if? My life could be completely different now. Better, worse, or I might not be here telling you my story at all. Who knows? I wish I could let go of those questions, but I have a constant reminder of what happened in that place all those years ago, so it's hard moving on. That day, everything would change. We were splashing water on each other and having a great time when I felt something rough and scaly brushing against my feet. I didn't pay too much attention to it. Surely it was just a rock or something like that, right? Nothing bad had ever happened to us while we were swimming there, so we were sure to be perfectly safe. Wrong. It was certainly not a rock, and I would discover my mistake in the worst way possible. A few more times, my toes would brush against that odd, scaly surface. I found it so odd and thought of going for a little exploration underwater once or twice. Fortunately, though, my friends kept distracting me with silly games and dares. If I had dove down there, God only knows what would have happened to me. So I brushed it off as just a weird stone or something of the sort and kept on having a great time. We continued to swim around until something brushed against me again. Something really changed at that time. Much to my horror, it didn't brush against my foot, but against my leg. That couldn't be a rock. It was moving around, and it seemed so big. It took me way too long to react. Something was definitely wrong. A big animal was moving just underneath the water, and though I couldn't tell what it was right away, I knew I was in trouble. I wanted to swim away, but I felt paralyzed. It was as if my brain was telling me to leave at once, but my body wasn't responding. By the time I discovered a crocodile was swimming in the lake, there was nothing I could do to escape its attack. I watched it enthralled and terrified. It was the most beautiful and scary creature I had ever seen, all at the same time. I knew my life was on the line, and I couldn't even scream. I don't think I've ever really known fear until I stared into that crocodile's eyes. For a second or two, the entire world seemed to be moving in slow motion. An instant later, it became the opposite. Everything began happening way too fast. I felt a sharp pain in my leg, the worst agony I'd ever experienced. The crocodile was sinking its teeth into my skin and pulling hard. I began screaming like crazy. The pain was so intense, I was sure I'd faint right then and there. The beast's fangs were so sharp and his jaws so strong, I really did believe he could swallow me whole if he wanted to. That crocodile was going to eat me alive, and there was nothing I could do about it. I was thrashing around and yelling for someone to help me. I tried to swim away, but it was impossible. It was so large, so strong, and so vicious. It released my leg for only an instant, and then it sunk its teeth into my tattered body again. Thank God my friends didn't run away. If they had panicked and rushed away to get help, then I'd be a goner. I know it. There's no way I could have survived that attack for even a minute longer. Believe me, I still thank them for their bravery every time we hang out together. They didn't even hesitate. They began making a ruckus, throwing water around, and screaming to the top of their lungs. Eventually, they somehow managed to get the crocodile to feel threatened and let go of me. It swam away and disappeared as if it had never been there. It was then that my friends dragged me away, toward the shore, to safety. I tried to swim to make it easier for them to help me, but I couldn't even move my leg at all. I thought it was because I was too hurt, but I'd soon discover it was far worse than that. I was just so relieved that I was alive. I thought I was going to find a watery grave there, and it would be the end of me. I was still so young, there was so much left I wanted to do, like kissing a girl, going to college, and a million other things. When we finally reached the shore, I looked down at my legs in horror. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, or rather what I wasn't seeing. My left leg was completely gone from the knee down. The crocodile had actually bitten it off. That explained why I couldn't move it at all. I could even see the bone after my thigh ended. It had been ripped out, and the crocodile was probably having it for lunch at that very moment. My friends later told me I screamed in panic and then fainted. I still don't know if it was from the pain, the shock, or the panic I experienced after learning I was crippled by a crocodile. I really don't remember anything after I looked down at that wound. It was as if the world around me suddenly went black and everything disappeared. I couldn't even feel the pain. It was as if my brain was blocking everything to keep me alive. My friends said they got really scared then. They thought I'd never wake up again. One of them stayed with me while the other ran to ask for help. Thank God he didn't take too long getting a police officer's attention. Apparently the ambulance was there in no time. If the doctors had taken any longer to arrive, or the cop had been somewhere else, or my friend tripped along the way, I might not even be here any longer. Or the consequences of that attack could have been even worse. Days later, I woke up at the hospital. I was in intensive care and had undergone 2 different surgeries. The doctors weren't sure I was going to make it. After all, I had just lost so much blood, and the wound was really nasty. A few days later, I actually found myself under the knife again. It was a terrifying experience, and there was nothing my parents could say to console me. There was a big risk that my leg would end up getting infected, and that was really life-threatening. That meant I had to stay at the hospital for a while longer. I was so depressed, and spent all my time laying quietly on my bed. I had to do lots of physical therapy, but was so sad that I didn't listen to my doctors at all. It took a lot of pep talks from my friends and family to get me to do anything but sit there silently all day long. The doctors explained that I would have to live the rest of my life with only one leg or get a metal limb. My mom and dad didn't have the money to afford something so expensive, though. I was so upset and felt like a complete freak. I was devastated, and I couldn't imagine what my life would be like from then on. I thought everything was over. I wouldn't be able to do everyday activities I used to take for granted. Like walking, running, playing outdoors like any other kid. I wouldn't even be able to learn to drive when I turned 16 either. After a while, though, what seemed terrible became normal. I got used to moving around with only one leg, and then realized I could still be my old self and do everything I used to love. My friends were really supportive and helped me when I needed to move around. Nowadays, I'm really grateful that I'm still alive and I survived such a traumatic experience. I have my health, and I get to enjoy life to its fullest. I also learned a good lesson of always being aware of my surroundings and not taking anything for granted. You never know what might happen in the future, so enjoy every single day to the fullest. Have you ever heard the expression carpe diem? It means seize the day, and I really believe in that now. You never know when your last day on this earth might arrive after all. Thanks for watching. Have you ever dealt with a traumatic experience you managed to overcome? Tell us about it in the comments. Don't forget